Hey everybody, and welcome to another exciting edition of the Stash Project Stash Report. This one for the 30th of October, 2014. Now, if I seem like I'm a little down, it's because I just recorded this whole video, about 25 minutes of it, and I did not have this input turned on for this microphone. So when that happens, it doesn't record off the inline mic like the first couple videos we did that were like really noisy and you couldn't hear me half the time. Yeah, it doesn't record off the inline mic either. It just sort of just sits there. And while I could have put a 25-minute video up with, I don't know, me pretending to be Samuel L. Jackson in the background or just letting you try to lip read what I was going to say, we're going to re-record it. So, anyway, Notebook of Knowledge time. Nothing new to report in the sense of, like, things you need to back order today or else you'll be sorry. We just have the Notebook of Knowledge out here because it is the end of October, and as of such, the domestic stuff has come out, at least from Revell Monogram. You may recall, or you may not care, but whatever the case may be, we'll make sure we give fair airtime to everybody. The Audi R8 Build and Play. This is the very simplified 7 8-piece snap-tight version of the glue kit. It's actually not the same, not even the same tool. You can't say it's a version of it, but there was, of course, a Audi R8 glue kit. This isn't it. This is a snap-tight Build and Play. Vroom, vroom, vroom on your around on your floor. All the Luddites do that with their cars, by the way. If you've never actually read any of the internet forums about model cars, we're building toys. And toys are to be played with. At least that's how my 19-month-old does with cars. He makes brooming noises and pushes them around on the floor. So I assume that all the 55, 60-year-old guys are doing the same thing. The other Build and Play is the Mustang, the 2015 Mustang. This one is molded in yellow. Remember, the original one was molded in red. So, God forbid, every kid's cars are the same. So now we got yellow ones. You got the 29 Ford Street Rod, blue B. We can't call it a Beetle. We have to call it the Bandito now. So the blue Bandito, because Revell's too cheap to pay for licensing. You may recall this kit has been backdated. A little pressure from the Round 2 folks of nostalgia there. We're going to backdate this tool to the original format of it. But, of course, it doesn't have the Cadillac engraved valve covers. Those have actually gone more than a couple issues ago. But they didn't add them back when they backtooled. And, of course, you can't call it a Beetle either because that's Volkswagen. So GM and Volkswagen were not paid their fair share, and now we've got to change the name of the kit. Your Black Widow Hot Rod, that is the, been released a few times now under the special product release platform where, they just take feedback from hobbyists. I don't know who these hobbyists are. I've never ever met one of them to know who these people are that decide that this old crap kit is the crap kit they want released. But as the case may be, is now in a regular Revell box, not the little tiny short retro box art version. This will, of course, let it be distributed to Hobby Lobby and Michaels and all the big box stores. I don't know if Walmart's going to carry it or not. Walmart seems to be kicking the models out of several of their Walmarts instead of putting them in for Christmas. I believe the sales experiment's almost over with, depending on your location. And lastly, the Ford T Street Rod. This is a 124 scale monogram kit. It is in a monogram box. At least it's supposed to be. I haven't seen the box art for it. The hobby shop wasn't going to be open until much later than I had intended to stay out at work this morning. So I didn't actually go. I know these are all out based on ability to order them from various online vendors, and they're all in stock, so they're already out there. Now, round 2, the 53 Ford pickup truck from AMT and the 120th scale AMX and 125th scale rather snap-tight Ford Fire Chief car. None of those three have shown up yet. None of them are available. They're all still pre-orders on all of the sites that we check stuff on. I called a friend of mine who does vending here in Pittsburgh, and he didn't have them either. So round 2 has sort of become one of those things where they release kits in spurts. You may recall the Don Garlis Dragster was actually out last month instead of this month, and they don't necessarily stick to that monthly reissue schedule. And that takes care of the domestic stuff. On the import side of things, over in Japan, last couple of days, we've gotten 2 kits out of Aoshima, their October stuff, the new stuff, because as it turns out, this stuff is not nearly as new as I personally thought it was going to be. And that would be this Toyota Century. Hobbylink Japan thinks this is a Nissan Century. Paging Scott Hardis. This is a Toyota, not a Nissan. This kit, there's actually nothing new about. Thought this was supposed to be like a slightly different version of the Toyota Century, this being like the L-Type, the last of the Toyota Centuries that were in this old body style that ran for almost 35, 40 years. But it is actually instead just a straight reissue of the what they call the catalog spec, or the completely and totally factory stock version of the Toyota Century. Why that is important and or interesting, or perhaps neither to you, you just zone out here as I explain something. This kit hasn't been issued this way in this format since 2002, so it's 12 years since the last time it came out like this. There's a version that had like Photo Etch Vortex wheels and two different VIP versions. The 18-inch Lowdown, which was just sort of an interesting name for a model kit, came out last year. There was an older version of a VIP version that actually almost changed the entire look of the car with the ground effects and stuff like that. And then there's like a VIP transport version of this car that has sort of the scale version of the rice paper curtains that are in the back of this thing when it's used as a limousine by Japanese dignitaries. But like I said, this is just a straight catalog spec. So this is going to build you a factory stock, boring milquetoast Toyota Century saloon. Where the interesting part comes into this, because you haven't been available this way this whole time, and it actually, other than the 18-inch Lowdown, it hasn't really been available, period, in almost 10 years, is the fact that the Centuries, all of the Century kits, no matter which one you find, all share a chassis plate with the Toyota Crown Royal, Crown Athlete, and the Toyota Crown Majesta. I believe technically it's the Majesta's chassis that's underneath here, because the Majesta rides a slightly larger wheelbase and a slightly longer overall length, and I think that's what's really underneath this. I could compare it once we get one here, but as far as that goes, this, because it has the same chassis as the Crown Royal Athlete and the Majesta, it also has all of the same suspension geometry components, which means this has a working spring suspension, and that allows you to ratchet the suspension all the way down and slam this thing, as well as what they call the open wheel option, which does not turn this into a Formula One car, but it does allow the wheels to be cambered very severely. Anybody who has any of the VIP versions of the Crown Royal or the Crown Majesta knows what I'm talking about there. Now, what will fit up inside of this fender well? Well, at least 18-inch wheels will. We know that for a fact. How much more will fit in there without having to start shaving the wheel wells or the inner fenders? I don't know. But this does present an interesting option if you do want a Toyota Century and you don't want to pay a whole heck of a lot for one, because it's just a factory stock version. Is with the exchange rate, our dollar is very strong to the Japanese yen right now, is running $17.77 as of this morning. So it's a really cheap way to get this kit, because the 18-inch Lowdown is long out of production at this point, and it tends to sell for close to $30-$35 on eBay when you can find one. So this, if you want a Century for a reasonable buy-in price, here it is. And what you could, of course, do is take any of the VIP or the 18-inch, 19-inch, 20-inch. The exact scaling of those is not as specific as you'd like to think it would be. Any of those, and of course, put them onto this kit and camber and slam it and do everything else, and you get you get your 18-inch Lowdown, or your I suppose you could take the Vortex out of the Crown Royal, the older Crown Royal kit that's still around. That still exists, and I think they're still making it. I know you can back order it anyway, and that still has the Photo Etch Vortex wheels in it. And you could do something with this kit with a cheap entry price, and then modify it to your needs. The other one that came out just this morning is this E70 Corolla police car version. I thought that this was going to be a lot newer parts than it is. The steel wheels are from the DX version. The grille and everything, all of these parts are from the recent GT and DX version. This is sort of a mixed bag of parts. The interior and the chassis and the body and everything like that are all from the original Corolla, the Best Car Vintage, the updated version of it anyway, from 2002. And then your grille, your bumpers, and all that are from these kits that were released the end of last year and the beginning of this year. And then the police car parts, which I actually thought were new because I had not seen that specific light before, which doesn't mean anything because I'm in the United States and they're in Japan. All of the police car parts are actually off a runner that's labeled with a 1999 tooling date. So not only are these police car parts not new, they're really old, as it turns out. So, shows what I know. 15-year-old parts being thrown into a brand new kit. The decals are new, and the one sort of nice feature about this is it does have a masking seal for the hood. Usually these police cars are pre-painted or they included a decal for that peaked little thing on the hood. This does not include a decal, and it's obviously not pre-painted. Sorry to the folks of Baltimore. But it does include a masking seal so that you can paint that peaked area on the front of the hood and not worry about it. I guess maybe you worry about your blacks matching. In the sense of the car won't match the decal, so now you could just paint the hood because of course the real thing is painted. It's not a decal, and have your two blacks on the body and on the hood match. Maybe that's the case. I'm not exactly sure the reasoning behind that because it has been a decal in so many of the other things like there's a series called the Patrol Car series. And some other the other non-pre-painted versions of like the Crowns and stuff like that, they all had decals for that hood peak. But masking seals tend to be pretty effective. Most people are most familiar with the ones they include in like Tamiya kits, Aoshima kits, Fujimi kits that allow you to mask the black window trim around the inside of a window. This is the same principle, just goes on the outside of the hood. And that's your currently issued stuff as far as that goes. You may recall last week we discussed Aoshima and the fact that they were going to be announcing a variation of their existing supercar tool and a brand new clean sheet supercar tool. And also the box art for the Crown Athletes. The box art for the Crown Athletes is officially out. You can go to Aoshima's Facebook page if you want to see it. I didn't download it to show it here. If you haven't seen it yet, Aoshima's Facebook page has them both, the 20-inch custom wheel and the stock. I think it's really sharp-looking box art. I'm not a box art guy. Box art doesn't sell me model kits. Content sell me model kits. Box art is too easy to lead you astray or play on your emotions, which I know that's the point. But playing on your emotions is the nostalgia trip that round 2 is on. All those retro deluxe box arts with the little mini box arts in them and the fucking art boxes and all this other goofy nonsense that, gets you to buy a Pacer or a Matador or something. Well, not a Matador, but a Pacer or a, I'm trying to think what the heck that is. Gremlin. Yeah, Gremlin. Haha. Gets you to buy a Gremlin. Yeah, I know. I got suckered into a Gremlin just like everybody else did, just because it was an oddball kit. Haven't bought a Pacer, though. But, that you kind of wonder how long they could milk that cow, as it were, because the cows are dropping dead in the field. Not to be mean-spirited or try to wish bad karma upon anybody. But let's face the fact, the nostalgia factor of these kits puts them back when they were made. And when they were made, all of those people that are currently retired or darn close to it were teenagers. How much longer are they going to have fine motor skills? I'm not even 40 yet, and I've suffered through the fact that I'm going to have to buy, and did buy, and currently use quite a bit, and don't know how I live without it, one of those magnifying visors to paint, small details close up. Not so much because I need reading glasses. I could clearly adjust between this, watching this camera, and down here is, the camera's up here, and in this area right here is a screen that allows me to watch myself talk. So to make sure that I'm, in focus and stuff like that. But I can switch between that, watching myself talk, and this sheet of paper for the notebook of knowledge without having to be like, okay, you watched your parents do that before. They can't read close up and they need reading glasses. It's just something that happens, your eyes, lenses lose their flexibility, and then suddenly you're down the road to trifocals. Medical advancements in technology and science have been fantastic. People aren't dropping dead at 48 anymore, but, they also have a whole lot of medical problems going into their 70s and 80s. I think trying to stack your nostalgia cards only goes so far before the people that you're trying to sell stuff to just can't build models. Not because they're dead, but just because they're physically, not capable of doing it anymore. There's always, every forum you go to that is populated by a bunch of people that, we prefer to call Luddites because they're scared of every bit of change yet they're on the internet. I can't stand PayPal. They're going to steal all of my money, but I'm going to bitch about it on the internet. All them folks, you go on a forum, there's going to be a thread on there. It's like, what can't you do anymore? You list your body functional, abnormalities here. And I got the shake so bad I can only put models together for 30 seconds, and I can't see, and I can't sit, and I can't stand, I can't this, And look, getting old sucks. Everybody knows it, and I'm not trying to make fun of anybody in the sense of being old because we're all going to get there someday. The only sure thing we know is that we're all going to die of something at some point, and we all just hope we live long enough to, sort of accomplish what we're going for in life, if that makes any sense. But I'm not saying that AMT, Round 2, MPC, now Lindbergh and Hawk and all that need to be making, new Bugatti Veyrons and stuff like that. No, leave that to me and the Asian guys. You're going to fuck it up anyway. But, they need to start investing some money in some new tools because people that are coming into the hobby, either brand new, hey, how you doing? Welcome to the hobby, or returning to the hobby, hey, glad to have you back, are going to be getting these, retro kits that aren't retro to them. I mean, these retro box art things, why they don't do anything for me is because I have no attachment to that. I've built a lot of these kits in my teenage years, but they were under those sort of weird AMT Ertl cloud boxes. The best way I can think of describing it. Let me grab one real quick. If I can do this without falling out of the chair. If I fall out of the chair, I'm not going to even cut the edit. You're going to watch me fall out of this chair, and you're all going to laugh. This is a cloud box. It's just sort of floating on air. There's no real background to it. It's just sort of on a... It's a built model that's been photoshopped to include glass, because usually the test shots of these didn't have glass in them, or decals or things like that. It's just sort of hanging out, free floating in space. The only thing that sort of gives you an idea that this thing isn't about to fall, 30 stories to its death is this line along the bottom here. But that's my nostalgic AMT Ertl experience, because those are the box arts. Or maybe your 1980s very computerized grid background that was on like the 66 Nova when it first came out. Or my MPC stuff is the 80s, late 80s, very end of the 80s MPC stuff, which again is sort of floating on a beige background. But all these nostalgia box arts don't do anything for me because I wasn't alive back then, and when these box arts were there. I built a 53 Ford before. I had one I just got rid of, actually. And, a new one might be neat for the fact that it's tooled back to the original 3-in-1 version of the kit as opposed to what it had become over the years, which is not. And remember, guys, the 53 Ford pickup that we're talking about is the old annual 3-in-1 kit, not that weird MPC flip nose bullshit blower drag car thing. No, this is an actual like factory stock 53 that has like a racing and a custom component to it. You could put something that looked very much akin to a 49 Mercury custom front end on it, if that's what you're thinking of. Cruising USA, Barris Customs, that box art. So, like I said, I just think it's very confusing to people coming into or back into the hobby because they're buying these kits. They're new kits, and people buy new domestic kits. They're expecting one of two things: Mobius, where everything is brand new because it never existed before, good, bad, or indifferent, however you want to look at their kit accuracy or lack thereof, and then Revell, where even the new stuff isn't that old. I mean, the Blue Bandito of this reissue is the really old kit, it's from the 1960s, but most of the reissues are 80s, 90s kits, a couple 70s, 60s things here, but they're all the street rods, the fantasy hot rods and stuff like that. Most of their actual cars, they're reissues of kits that are 10, 20, maybe 30 years on the outside old, but you buy into a Revell kit, and for the most part you know what you're getting. It's going to be reasonably well engineered, reasonably well crafted, may not be the word you're looking for, but it's not going to be a fight to put together for the most part, unless you bought one of those Ed Roth 57 Chevys, in which case I weep for your soul. But your round 2 kits, a lot of these round 2 kits are from the 1960s, and they don't fit together very well. There's no positive mounting. Buddy of mine was trying to build a Ford Courier, which is a 1970s mini Ford pickup truck, and was saying that like essentially nothing mounted to anything else. There were no mounting pins, there were holes. It was just all sort of like trying to put the interior and the chassis and the body together and mount and frost it like a cake, basically, with layers of parts. And that's really going to be frustrating to a 17-year-old kid who really hasn't built that many models, or to anybody coming back into the hobby who doesn't realize that the 53 Ford isn't a newly tooled kit. Because for some reason, and I don't understand exactly why, because Revell does reissue so many kits every year. You figure they only really put out maybe 3 new kits, and usually like 3 significantly modified reissues where you're building something more different than the first one. Think your 90 LX, and then your drag version of the 90 LX, your 70 Hemi Cuda, and then the Sox and Martin Hemi Cuda. Perhaps the 50 Olds and the 50 Olds Customs aren't particularly like far enough apart, but those were 2 separate kits. The 57 Ford, then there was a 57 Ford NASCAR version, again, 2 separate genres. Even their reissue, that's a modified reissue. I mean, all that tooling was done and shot at once, and then there's 6-8 months, a year in between the reissues, or the subsequent modified reissue. But round 2 hasn't cut any new tools other than the showroom replicas, which weren't their tooling. That was a Chinese tooling company that did the promotional models for the dealerships that were then broken down and sold. That is how most of the AMT annuals through the late 80s and 90s were done, in the sense that Ford or GM or whoever paid for 95% of the tooling, and then AMT would go back and put an engine in and break the parts down into a kit rather than a part. If you've ever gotten any of the Snapfast Plus kits, like the dually Chevy pickup truck or the dually Ford pickup truck, that is an unassembled promotional model. The Ford SHO, the Chevy Beretta, the Chevy Silverado pickup trucks were all based in a promo, but then, of course, like I said, were later broken down and had turned into full detail model kits. But for some reason, a lot of people seem to think these round 2 kits are new, and they're brand new. And then they get these kits that are 30 years old, and they're like, "This thing suck ass. I can't build this thing." And I'd never buy another round 2 kit in my life. This is the same problem that Lindbergh has, having all of that old IMC and Palmer and Pyro crap in their line. So many people got so burnt on the Auburn's Speedtail and the 46, 49 Lincoln, whatever the hell that model was, and all of these, the 71 Mustang, the 73 Challenger, all of these god-awful old tools that had no business ever having plastic run through them again. And then they're put out by Lindbergh, usually during the Craft House years, and then a little bit more when Jay Lloyd took over. And, a lot of these people bought these kits, especially when they had the fire on the West Coast warehouse, and they sold them at Ollie's and Tuesday Morning, all those places, for like $8 a kit. And we're seeing it again. There's another run of Lindbergh kits out at Ollie's right now, where one of the things they've reissued was the Dodge Dakota pickup truck, but they're not saying it's a Snap-Tight kit anymore. I've seen at least 10 people show up on Facebook and be like, "This is a Snap-Tight kit. It's not a glue kit. This fucking thing sucks. Why did I ever buy this kit?" Well, they don't know the source of it. They don't watch the stash report. That's their fault, not mine. But you see where they're going with that. They expected it to be a brand new kit, because the other stuff that was out there, all the Revell stuff, the 69 Baldwin Motion Camaro. I'm looking at the stuff that I've seen online. The Curtis Midget Racer, the Audi R8 Spider. All of those are not, if they're not new, they're within the last 3 or 4 years, new. The midgets were all new. The Audi R8 Spider was a version of the Audi R8 Coupe. Both of those are Revell of Germany kits, but they're not more than 5-6 years old at this point. The Baldwin Motion Camaro, okay, that kit probably is 20 years old. I remember seeing that one in the Skips Drive-In series. So that one is that old, but it's in a new box, and you know what you're getting with a 69 Camaro out of Revell. And, you don't know what you're getting out of a 53 Studebaker or, a AMX 120 scale AMX, I don't know how many of those they're going to sell anyway to anybody new, because the 120th scale is sort of an oddball scale. But, I'm trying to look back through what else. the 53 Willys panel thing. Let's see, what else has they been doing? Well, 67 Chevelle Pro Street. That's not a bad example because that's a 1990s kit, but the 25 Racing T parts pack and a bunch of these other stuff that have plowed out. Let's see, the 1/16 scale 65 Mustang, just an awful kit proportion wise. People don't realize that stuff. They're going to the hobby shop, they see something on the shelf and like, ooh, gimme, and then they go home and they're really disappointed in it. And I could save them the pain if they'd watch these videos. I really could. But it's not that point. It's just the fact that, when you put out new kits and old kits, and they're all under the same box art, or you're selling your old kits under retro box art to tap into some nostalgia that, is to try to make people forget how bad these kits really are. Hey, I remember this box art when I was 18. This kit was a piece of shit when I was 18, too, and it still is today. So box art doesn't sell things to me. Kit contents do, which is where we'll wind this wagon trail back up to. But I think the box art on these Crown Athletes, and I'm partial to Crowns. I have, Crown Athlete and Crown Royal Saloon of every vintage they made from 2003 through current ones. But I think this box art really looks good. Aoshima has really been doing some very nice box art work in general for about the last 12, 18 months now. Where we're going with this is the new tool and the variation of the tool. The new tool, the test shots were not available in time to show. The guy who writes the blog, filming this the second time, I'm a little parched. The guy who writes the blog, puts the information out there, did not get the test shots in time to show what they were. And I think they want to, show pictures instead of just telling you what it is. That's cool because, there's a lot of speculation you can run out with when you just see a picture of something. Here's this picture. This is what we're going to do. And you're all like, oh, well, that could be this. It could be that. It could be the other thing. So what they're going to be doing with that is supposedly teasing it again for next week. So maybe we'll talk about it next week. But there's a thing called a Hobby Expo. It's like a big model car contest show, as well as sort of a State of the Union type of deal with a bunch of different manufacturers from Japan coming and speaking. And they'll be officially announcing it publicly, allegedly, on the 9th of November, 2 weeks from now. Like I said, we may find out what it is next week. We'll see. We'll see what we can find out. And then the variation of the supercar, the existing supercar tooling, is a 1988 spec version of the Lamborghini Countach. This may be answering a question that nobody was asking. Like, I don't recall anyone ever saying, boy, you know what, I really wish we had a good model of an 88 Countach. A lot of people don't realize that Aoshima's Countach are new. A lot of people seem to be under the theory that these are the old Aimei kits, or that they're they're from the 80s, they're crappy, or whatever. Your Countach sort of go like this. Monogram, which also is the only thing that resembles this car. Monogram's the only one that did a Countach of the 88-89 version. And then Tamiya. Good-looking cars, but they're all motorized. Don't be surprised when you buy a $12 Countach from Tamiya, and then you get a motorized chassis. You have been warned. And then Aoshima. Aoshima's Countaches were done digital scans at Lamborghini in Italy. They are the most, period, end of story, accurately proportioned, whether you think so or not, because it's one of those tricks of the eye thing. One of the most accurately proportioned set of Lamborghinis that there are. They have, I think, 6 of those out. One of them was a like with optional parts with photo etch stuff in it version of the other one. So there's really 5 different variations of it. A LP400, a 5000 Quattro, Walter Wolf's original car, one of the other 2 cars that Walter Wolf had done for him, as well as the Japan-specific import version. This would be the black car with the white pinstriping, if you've ever seen it. And then Fujimi. Now, I'm not saying Fujimi's kits are better than Aoshima, or even better than Tamiya's, but they did the Enthusiast series ones that have the 200-plus part content. And a lot of people seem to hold those as being the best ones. A good friend of mine really doesn't like the Aoshima kits because they don't offer full engines like the Fujimi Enthusiast series do. One thing to remember when you are buying a Fujimi Lamborghini, though, is that they did most of those Countachs again as real sports. And the real sports series are curbsides. Your enthusiast series, which run about $12 more when you're buying them, keep that in mind. If you can't figure out the difference between the two of them, if it's cheap, it's probably not the one you want, unless it's a Fujimi Testers one, because I think the Testers ones were all enthusiast series. But the Aoshima kits and the Fujimi kits sort of double each other up. They're pretty much the same thing. Fujimi does offer a 25th anniversary version, and that's not available as a Aoshima kit or anybody else for that matter. But this one will, I said, duplicate that monogram kit. A lot of people are kind of partial to that monogram kit because it was a monogram kit and, blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't exactly very accurate proportionally speaking, and is very simplified. It was only like 75, 80 parts. Even these like I said, the Aoshima kits have a bottom plate that goes in the bottom of the chassis, and then there's like a 12, 14 part engine top. But they don't mate to each other. You can never take. You have to sort of hack that bottom piece apart to get it to fit onto the bottom of the engine, and it would probably be this much too short anyway to look quite right. But when it's built, you can't tell. At least I don't think you can. But I know a lot of people insist on that complete engine thing, and that's fine. A good friend of mine who insists on the complete engine thing just built a green Countach. It's probably one of the best ones I've seen done. Could be the Buckeye Scale Auto Parts wheels, but it could be the skill of the builder too. And it's probably, like I said, best ones I've seen done. Of course, one of the most recent ones I've seen done too. And that car is not nearly as popular in general or with model builders as it was, when the car actually existed in real life. There's a debate about whether or not it'll include the U.S. bumpers because the monogram kit did not. It sort of failed in that way too. It was sort of a European version of a U.S. car. The 88 and 89 Countach were the only cars that were ever actually imported into the United States by Lamborghini. There were other ones, of course, introduced into the United States via that sort of Mercury underworld of gray import that doesn't exist anymore. You can't really gray import anything anymore. But it used to be that you could sort of slide some stuff in the United States here and there, and a lot of German cars, BMWs, Mercedes-Benzes, Lamborghinis, Ferraris were all sort of scooted in underneath the radar. Anybody pay attention? I've got this wild-looking supercar I just bought. I'm going to import it from Italy. Don't pay any attention to what's going on here. But anyway, like I said, the 88, 89 were the ones that were actually officially imported in the United States. And even then, there were only 672 of them built between those 2 years. So the kit will have new side skirts to reflect the 88, 89 sort of... They weren't exactly side intakes, but they look like if you took the Testarossa side, the side of a Ferrari Testarossa, and you took out half of the ribs and then shrunk it down real small, and then put it on the bottom of the car, was kind of what it looks like. New engine cover. I don't know if there's going to be some new wheels with it or not. It's going to be a 5,000 Quattro basis as far as what the kit is itself. And then it looks like it's going to have some updated interior parts. It's hard to tell if the interior parts in the pictures that have been shown are actually new because the new parts are molded in black, or just because the interior parts in the kit are molded in black. So we'll see what that pans out to be. But that'll be a first quarter 2015 release. And that brings us to the reissued stuff for this week. The reissued stuff, there's only two. The Best Car Vintage Laurel HT 2000 SGX. This is a best car vintage. I mean best car vintage. And when I say that, I mean this thing has a battery box and a switch and riveted wheels and a tongue depressor tie rod that makes your steering work. This is a very, very both 1970s kit in general. Love that 1970s styling. Just make a real model out of this, guys. Come on. I would buy one of these with an actual chassis underneath of it just because it's so gosh darn 1970s Japanese ugly. But this is, like I said, it's a 1970s kit. And it has all of those benefits and detractions. The detractions, of course, being, you're building the interior off the bottoms of the chassis pan. The chassis pan is going to be kind of shallow. That makes the interior kind of shallow. and you got, a place for your electric motor to go that doesn't exist anymore, and your switch, and all that happy nonsense. The E70 Corolla was the best car vintage. You may recall the box art from like a half an hour ago, but it's not as best car vintage. They sort of modified the tooling a little bit in 2002. There are like front uprights as opposed to just being like little plastic pegs. They kind of sort of have strut and spring detail molded into them, where this one doesn't. And while the Corolla does have a switch in it, it's not nearly as large. There are no wood screws holding anything together on the Corolla like there are on this one. And then the other one is just a straight reissue of the Ken and Mary Works 4-door Skyline Liberty Walk kit. This is the second Liberty Walk kit that was made, and there's nothing new here other than it just being a restock. It's been out of production for almost 8 months now. And so it's a restock of an old kit, a little before Christmas restocking there. There are still, let me see here, two or three more reissues from spot runs, rather, from October from Aoshima. And of course, they got a bunch of stuff from September and August they haven't put out yet. And one of the things they haven't put out yet that's kind of surprising are the pre-painted Subaru BRZ and Toyota 86 FRS, Scion FRSs. There has to be a paint problem here. I guess there doesn't have to be, but there has to be a paint problem here. They reissued the detail upset. This will be the photo etch that goes with the Toyota 86 and FRS. That came out a couple weeks ago. Didn't mention it because we're waiting on these kits. Figured they'd be out by now. But either something with the Satin White Pearl or the Red Mica or the World Rally Blue is not functioning properly, because there's nothing about those pre-painted kits that's different from the factory stock kits that started those Boxer twins way back when, like a year and a half ago now. So there's nothing about these kits that's new, nothing about them that would be like, we're not happy with something that came out of the tool and we've got to send it back for a revision. It has to be a paint problem, because these kits are now 3 months overdue. And the base, the thing that's underneath the pre-paint, as it were, is a year and a half old. So unless something was damaged in the tooling or somebody took the tooling out of the machine and dropped it on the floor and busted something like that, then there's absolutely no reason for why they shouldn't have been out yet. It has to be a paint problem. And then your Crown Athlete hasn't come out. That was supposed to be on October 1st, and then sort of slid throughout the month. But like I said, the box art does exist. It's officially approved by Toyota, so a week or two. Come out tomorrow, just to prove me wrong. But other than that, the only other thing for October that hasn't come out yet is this one lonely 1/12 scale Tamiya F1 kit. And I expect it tomorrow, because Tamiya hasn't missed a release date in 2 years. It'd be very disappointing to see them start now. I'm talking to you, Tamiya. Stop that. November, of course, we'll have a video for that coming up here in the next day or two once we know what Revell's reissues are for the month of November. Big chunk of Aoshima stuff here. And then over here you got your Fujimi and your Hasegawa and your Tamiya. Your BRZ Custom is the only thing that's coming. The Street Custom is the only thing on Tamiya. But then you get your B-Max, Celica and stuff. So it's a good month of November coming up if you want to build some models. I hope you do. Well, otherwise, you just wasted 37 minutes of your life for nothing at this point. But I said, we'll have a November video out once we know officially what Revell plans to do. I don't think Revell officially knows what they're going to do, because their issues and reissues seem to be sliding right out of 2014 at this point. And then the last thing I guess we have coming up, other than the weekly video stuff, is the first quarter 2015 speculation. We'll talk more about that 88 Countach, and I suppose we'll finally know what that brand new clean sheet supercar is going to be, McLaren, Lamborghini. And, once we know what Revell stuff is. We heard Revell will be doing it on the 1st of November, but that's Saturday. So unless they plan to just announce the information on Facebook, because there are no model shows, at least no major ones coming up, unless they plan to just throw it out there on Facebook and let's see what sticks, so to speak, I'm thinking probably Monday. We'll see. Nobody seems to know what they're doing, other than the fact that there's not going to be anything significantly new or earth-shattering. That seems to be the general gist, is that nobody's going to be happy, but nobody's going to be disappointed. We'll see. Anyway, until we talk to you the next time, we'll see you on the other side.